the coast of East Anglia tomorrow morning, otherwise a dry start with plenty of sunny spells. A fairly brisk northeasterly breeze continuing. A breezy start to Tuesday morning for southern England, which may blow in a few showers from the east, otherwise plenty of sunny spells to come for the day ahead. Staying dry for many as we head towards midday, sunny spells and just a few showers in the far east and southeast. And that is how the weather is shaping up during tomorrow morning.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh, my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News. No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. Tonight, winter is coming and the country is staring down the barrel of an energy catastrophe. So why are we still hostage to the disastrous green agenda started by Nick Clegg and continued by other middle-class lefty lunatics who dominate our politics? I'll explain why the next Prime Minister must make halting the unhinged march to net zero their top priority. That's in my digest next. Then I'll get the reaction of my bank holiday superstar panel, Daily Express columnist Karen Malone, senior reporter for the newspaper Benjamin Butterworth, and former MEP campaigner and political commentator Belinda DeLucy. As the Sunday Times reveals that some Tory MPs are already considering a no-confidence coup against Liz Truss to get Boris back into number 10, could the ousted PM make an extraordinarily swift comeback? Well, unrest at his undemocratic deposition is undoubtedly growing among card-carrying Conservatives. Tory member Patrick Stoner wants to make the party's voices heard using his new grassroots action group, the Alliance of Conservative Voters. He joins me live to make a rallying call for democracy at 10:15. As gangs of youth run riot all over lawless Britain. Should we bring back corporal punishment to restore old-school discipline into the nation's wayward children? We're going to debate that at 10:30. After Rishi Sunak's pitiful and self-serving lockdown revelations, should those at the helm of our ruinous COVID response face criminal prosecution for their conduct during the pandemic? Our man in Stirling, Neil Oliver, delivers a critical briefing on that at 9:45. Justin Trudeau's COVID tyranny has finally been exposed as court documents reveal Canada's travel ban had no scientific basis and was, surprise, surprise, purely political. Tonight, I'm going to be joined live by the two British freedom fighters who spearheaded this crucial battle against Canada's sick COVID system. Now, Sean Rickard and Carl Harrison, they're here alongside the Canadian columnist who broke the story, Rupa Suyabrahman. They're all uncancelled at 10:40. The USA's own unscientific travel ban for the unvaxxed has seen tennis star and civil rights hero Novak Djokovic disgracefully banned from competing in the US Open. Our positive professor Carol Sakura joins me live at 9:35 as he rails against the discriminatory stupidity of Joe Biden's COVID laws. As Labour's shadow cabinet member Lucy Powell sports this divisive and ridiculous T-shirt, and police remove these gender-critical feminist lesbians from a pride march.
At the moment, your march, this group of people, is causing confrontation between different groups of people. Okay? Your own accord.
I want to make sure I understand that you're removing lesbians from like LGBT march.
Yes.
Are the left now society's intolerant Puritans? We're going to debate that at 10. And speaking of the intolerant left, how has this fun video by the Hollywood star Drew Barrymore...
Whenever you can go out into the rain, do not miss the opportunity!
How has that seen her branded racist?
To disrespect and dismiss the boundaries that Black creators have set. And now you're one of those people.
We'll get stuck into all of that in the media buzz. And as newly woke fashion brand Abercrombie & Fitch face backlash for using plus-size models in their adverts, should fat shaming actually be encouraged to get the nation into shape? Rapper and friend of the show Zuby found himself at the centre of a Twitter storm for saying just that, and he'll do battle with founder of Fatnosis, Steve Miller, and plus-size model Eva Believer in the clash at 9:40. As Meghan sensationally and really horrifically actually reveals that Prince Charles's relationship with Prince Harry is over and compares itself to Nelson Mandela, of course. Has the Duchess of Woke fully lost the plot? We're going to unpack her latest attention-seeking drivel as I crown tonight's greatest Britain and Union jackass at 10:50. We'll have the newspaper front pages on the way too. Have a feeling Meghan's going to feature on those as well. This is Dan Wootton Tonight. Let's go. Just one thing first, though, and Meghan Markle's kamikaze mission to bring down the royal family, which she needs to have, right, to have any relevance, well, it continued today with yet another unhinged tirade. The tell-all for the woke US magazine The Cut is a horrendous read, showing a bitter and self-obsessed Hollywood diva completely out of touch with the world around her. She goes in on the royal family, she trashes Prince Charles's relationship with her gutless husband, Harry, and puts out a pack of pure fantasies about the British media, including this laughable claim that there would be 40 photographers in a press pen each time her children went to school, and claiming the media called her son the N-word, with proof of the said incident, of course, completely non-existent. It didn't happen. But perhaps the most telling anecdote was when Meghan shared an apparent exchange between her and a South African cast member of The Lion King in London. This was in 2019. She says, "He looked at me and he's just like light. He said, 'I just need you to know, when you married into this family, we rejoiced in the streets the same we did when Mandela was freed from prison.'" Good Lord. There's really no hope for us there. Or Prince Harry, if he stays down this rabbit hole. Now, who is really to blame for the energy catastrophe? We are facing a special bank holiday digest on net zero coming up. And then my superstar panel weigh-in. Tonight, top Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, star reporter for the newspaper Benjamin Butterworth, and former MEP Belinda DeLucy. But first, for all of that, so happy it's bank holiday, but she's back, the wonderful Polly Middlehurst.
Good to be back. Thanks, Dan. Good evening to you. And our top story. NASA has postponed the launch of its new moon rocket after an issue with one of its engines. The uncrewed rocket is the world's most powerful to date and was due to propel a test capsule far from Earth into the moon's orbit. Engineers, though, say a temperature problem was the cause of the launch being called off today. Mission manager Michael Safarin says the NASA team isn't ready to give up and hopes for a successful takeoff on Friday.
The combination of not being able to get the engine 3 chilled down and then the vent valve issue that they saw at the inner tank really caused us to pause today, and we felt like we needed a little more time. There was also a series of weather issues throughout the window. We would have been no-go for weather at the beginning of the window due to precipitation, and later on in the window we would have been no-go for lightning.
Full coverage of that on Friday if it happens here on GB News. Well, in politics, in the final week of campaigning in the Conservative leadership contest, Liz Truss's team says she favours targeted support to ease the cost of living crisis. But Liz Truss says she's not ruling anything out, adding it wouldn't be right to announce her entire plan before she'd seen the full Whitehall analysis. International news, and residents living near Europe's biggest nuclear facility in Ukraine are now being given iodine tablets amid fears of a nuclear incident. The authorities handed out medication to both parents and children living close to the Zaporizhzhia power station amid intense fighting there. A team from the International Atomic Energy Agency have arrived in Ukraine to investigate a Russia-occupied facility, saying safety and security must be protected. Britain's biggest warship is limping back to port following what's called a mechanical issue. HMS Prince of Wales left Portsmouth on Saturday, intending to spend the next 3 months at sea working with US military partners in the Atlantic. But the carrier hit a problem and is now moving slowly from the Isle of Wight, where she briefly went into port, and is now heading towards Gosport, where it's understood the sheltered area there will make it easier for divers to examine the damaged part, thought to be a propeller shaft. Some refuse collectors will continue to go on strike in Scotland as 2 unions rejected the latest offer from the local authorities. The offer made to bin workers included a one-off payment of up to £2,000, but that was rejected by both Unite and GMB. One other union is still in negotiations, and staff in Edinburgh at a number of other local administrations across Scotland have been staging industrial action also over the last week in a dispute over pay. That's it. You're up to date on TV, online and on your radio via DAB+. You're with GB News Tonight, where it's time for Dan Wootton Tonight.
So how the hell have we got here? We are facing an existential energy crisis this winter. I mean, in fact, this is an energy catastrophe. And it's because we let the middle-class, lefty Ramona lunatics who dominate British politics enact their virtue signalling plans without a hint of considering the dire consequences. Like the disastrous Liberal Democrat Deputy Prime Minister Nick Clegg, who boasted of his decision to reject nuclear power, both safe and environmentally friendly, because it wouldn't be available until exactly when we needed it.
The most optimistic scenarios from the government itself, there's no way they're going to have new nuclear come on stream until about 2021, 2022. So it's just not even an answer.
2022, think that's about now, Mr. Clegg. Then there's the party's current leader, Ed Davey, who, as Energy Secretary in the Cameron-Clegg coalition, banned fracking and claims to be proud of leaving us in this mess.
Final point. A regulation I passed as Secretary of State, which was because I was very careful about the environment, has actually meant that the fracking industry has not developed in this country at all. It was the regulation on earth tremors, the seismicity regulation, and I'm very proud that you're looking at the person basically stop the fracking industry in this country.
Very proud? He should hang his head in shame. And don't forget Theresa May, whose 2017 decision to cap energy prices, a policy ripped off straight from Labour's former socialist leader Ed Miliband, has failed spectacularly. Bills have not been kept down, competition has been destroyed, and many energy suppliers have been declared bankrupt. So that worked out right? Not. Then there's May's decision to damn us to net zero by 2050, a last-minute move made in the month before she was booted from number 10, nodded through without hardly any debate, given the life-changing nature of the policy. As the Daily Telegraph's associate editor Camilla Tominay wrote at the weekend, the rush to decarbonise the economy with no plan for how to achieve that over such a short period of time threatens to become one of the most expensive mistakes in recent British history. And if you think things are bad now, just wait till the Green extremists enact more of their plan. As you know, I'm an environmentalist, but the continued march to net zero in the middle of an energy catastrophe created in part by an unprecedented 2-year shutdown of the global economy and an unexpected European war cutting us up from Russian gas, that is unhinged. It will see us lose control of our own resources, with ordinary Brits forced to live smaller and smaller lives while the elites exert full control. We'll be eating insects and banned from travelling, while they continue to down beef carpaccio on their private jets. Like Prince Harry, the world's biggest eco-hypocrite who took a private jet 1,000 miles from his Californian home and transported his polo kit in a separate car. Before the usual suspects try to blame Brexit, just look at Germany, which is introducing a raft of draconian measures from September the 1st to try and cut the country's energy output by a whopping 20% to avoid blackouts thanks to a reliance on Russian gas. As Tory peer Lord Daniel Moylan rightly analysed, this is for those suggesting the energy shortages are caused by Brexit and the Conservatives. The next Prime Minister is going to have to reverse the damage and the decline started by Clegg's Lib Dem coalition, picked up by Theresa May, so that the UK is never reliant on bad actors for our energy again. But to respond now, my superstar panel, top Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, senior reporter for the newspaper Benjamin Butterworth, and former MEP, campaigner and political commentator Belinda de Lucy. Carol Malone, as you know, I care about the environment. I really think there are things we can do. But to me now, at this point in time, the march to net zero by 2050, it feels deranged.
It is deranged because it's going to cost this government, or whichever government is in power over the next few years, it's going to cost $1.5 trillion a year to impose the measures necessary. That's going to cost every household an extra $2.5 grand a year on top of everything else. Never mind the cost of living crisis, never mind anything else. On top of that, it's just not sustainable. And, you know, it kind of makes me cross when they talk about this country. We are responsible for 1% of global emissions. You know, China, 28%, America, 15%, India, 7.5%. None of those have committed to 2050 in the way we have. And I was doing some reading on this today, and I realised only 14 countries have made legally binding pledges to get to net zero. Only 57 out of 139 have got a detailed plan about how they're going to get there. And I'm not entirely sure we're one of those 57. You know, it's all very well saying we're going to do this, but Theresa May did this without a plan. She did it with no consultation. She didn't talk to anybody about it. She just announced it a month before she went. And I just think it's interesting, you know, whenever you see her looking at Boris in Parliament or talking about it, she talks about him like he's an idiot. She's the idiot here because she thought about nothing, you know, all the caps on the energy bills now. She was warned by financial institutions at the time, by analysts at the time, not to do this because it would kill the competitive markets, and that's exactly what happened. She was told the consumers would pay the price in the end. That's exactly what's happening now. So Theresa May has done a lot more damage in her tenure than Boris ever did.
Belinda de Lucy, do you agree?
Yeah, completely. I think these sort of eco-zealots or posh hippies or whatever you like to call them, so eager to slap their green, lovey levies on the less well-off to fund their sort of middle-class hobby of climate change at the moment.
Look at Ed Davey.
Well, exactly.
He claims he's so proud that we're in this place.
But what I don't understand is that I think wait at least until the economy is booming, and if you're wealthy enough, it's called green privilege in my books. If you're wealthy enough to rise above the wave of the fundamental crises that are hitting normal, ordinary people, like energy crisis, NHS waiting lists, crime. If you are privileged enough not to have to worry about those things, that you can spend your hours worrying about, I don't know, rain levels or polar bears or whatever. Good for you. Do it on your own time with your own money.
Green privilege.
It is green privilege.
What is the new boiler, these eco boilers, going to cost people? 15 grand. People have bought electric cars because they thought they were helping the environment. We now discover that because of what's happening with the energy, that electric cars are going to become as expensive to run as petrol cars. So people who have actually tried, decent, ordinary people have actually tried to help the environment, they're getting kicked in the face now financially.
And Benjamin, then you think about our lives, the lives of ordinary folk, and we are being preached to by someone like that eco-hypocrite in chief, Prince Harry, who takes an electric car to take him to a private jet, which makes absolutely no sense, then in a gas-guzzling big car, his polo kit, and folk like him have the cheek to tell us to stop travelling. Well, I'm not going to listen to folk like him anymore.
Well, I'm afraid if you think I'm going to defend Prince Harry doing that, then I'm not. Because
I don't think you should.
No, and I'm not, because I think it's
a disgrace, isn't it?
It blows my mind, actually, and there's been quite a few stories recently where people have used plane tracking facilities to see what some celebrities who are saying the right thing, in my view, about tackling climate change. Meanwhile, you can see what they're doing in their personal decisions. I mean, the example you give of Prince Harry, I mean, it blew my mind. Why would you put your polo kit in a car when you're in the plane? It's just unbelievable.
But it's not the sharpest crayon in the box.
It's lavish, it's wasteful.
Not least then, when he gave that conference at the UN about climate change. He stood there at the UN and talked about it.
And I think that's entirely valid. And people, that feel the cost of it should be annoyed at that. You had Elon Musk, who went a couple of miles by plane. I mean, it's just unbelievably bizarre and selfish. But that doesn't mean that the rest of us and that governments and that countries, big countries like ours economically, that we shouldn't be doing our part.
So are you happy to eat insects and never travel again? Because trust me, Benjamin, that's where this is heading.
Well, I actually quite like insects. They're rather nice, but that's a choice that people.
Surprised there.
That's a choice that people can make. And actually, as someone that lives in a big city, I rarely. I don't drive and I get public transport. In fact, I walk most places. So I'm happy.
You fly around the world all the time, though.
I do.
Happy to give that up?
I do fly, although I always take the thing to build a few trees.
And they've said that there's not enough trees. You couldn't plant enough trees on the planet to stop what's happening with carbon monoxide. So that's irrelevant. That's just something that celebrities say so they can fly around the world in a private jet.
Like you, part of the elite, feel better.
But the idea that it's green energy that is the problem that has caused the situation we're in at the moment is farcical, because actually, ultimately, what we have is a supply shortage of energy.
But do you think we are ready as a country to hit net zero by 2050 without damning the underprivileged in society to total catastrophe?
Well, the truth is that when you have economic problems, economic downfall, which is what would happen if we don't tackle climate change, it'll be the poorest and the most vulnerable. As we speak, 30 million people are threatened with floods in Pakistan because of climate change. And so
sorry, where's your proof it's to do with
the climate change minister of Pakistan, who said that earlier today?
Well, of course he's going to offset the blame.
He's talking about wanting to get donations from other countries. Maybe that's what...
But we
know
shouldn't
the
let the government
of not
get off.
acting, and that's why we have to take responsibility.
This is something that I find really difficult, Belinda. Any time there is now a weather emergency. By the way, my heart goes out to the people of Pakistan. That is terrible. But we have had bad weather events, Belinda DeLucy.
Well, it's called climate cycles as well. There's such a thing as climate cycles. Weather does have its sort of ebbs and flows and peaks and troughs. It is normal. And I'm like you. I want to save the planet. I take plastic out of our seas when I'm swimming and I see it. I teach all my kids to be environmentally friendly. But this is enough. It's a very privileged, elitist, class-dividing thing that's going on at the moment.
How is it elitist to say that the people of Pakistan should be underwater?
Because there's no evidence for that. But what is important, we mustn't let the government off scot-free. They have made terrible decisions in the past. They have not planned for an energy crisis, and they say we didn't know about Russia. Yes, they could have...
Well, Carol, how do you feel about Boris Johnson saying, actually, we've got to stick to net zero?
the Ukrainians, they're paying for Putin's war in blood, so we just have to cop it. We've just got to cop it with high energy bills. Do you really agree with that?
I think, this is a man who said, before, when he was voted out, he wasn't going to make any decisions. I think this is his last gasp as Prime Minister, probably with a little bit of a nudge from his wife as well, who we know is very keen on all this. So, he can't be saying that now. He's not the one who's got to deal with the consequences of what that means. And, exactly what Belinda says, we're all very aware, but we are entering a period that is unprecedented in our history now. To pay 1.5 trillion or 2 trillion quid a year every single year between now and 2050. How in God's name are we going to do that when there's people in this country who are going to die this winter because they're going to be cold?
I think it's unforgivable.
So it is. We have to deal with that first. And I know people like you will say climate change. We have to deal with that too. That's really important. But this is happening right this second.
And we are. We are
dealing with it. We're one of the best countries in the world for dealing with climate change.
Aren't we, Benjamin? We're dealing with it. We're doing enough.
1% of global emissions.
We're not doing enough. We need to meet the net zero.
We're not doing enough.
Because 1% of global emissions, that's what we produce.
But you know what? I don't think that you should tell others what to do when you don't do that yourself.
We are doing
it. So if we're to have moral leadership on this in the world, then we have to act ourselves if countries like the US and China are to follow.
OK. Well, as long as you stick to your pledge to eat the insects and to never fly...
Enjoy your green privilege.
Where did you go on holiday last week again, by the way? Kurdistan. That's a long way away. That's a big flight.
I went horse riding in the country.
You didn't horse ride over to Kurdistan. You got the plane.
That was definitely a low emission holiday.
Be careful what you wish for, because if you're not careful, you're going to see the life that you enjoy taken away for future generations because of this green.
Don't worry, the boomers have already taken away the life that
here we go.
We're not getting into that. Benjamin Butterworth, Carol Malone, Belinda de Lucy. That was last week's debate. Most of the sub-panel. But they are here all night, don't worry. Now coming up, the USA's unscientific travel ban for the unvaxxed has seen tennis star and civil rights hero Novak Djokovic disgracefully barred from competing in the US Open. Our positive professor Carol Sikora joins me live at 9:40 to call out the discriminatory stupidity of Joe Biden's laws. But up next in the clash, as newly woke fashion brand Abercrombie & Fitch faces a backlash for using plus-sized models in their advertisements, should fat shaming be encouraged to get the nation in shape? Rapper and friend of the show Zuby found himself at the centre of a Twitter storm for saying just that, and he'll do battle with founder of Fatnosis, Steve Miller, and plus-size model Eva Believer. I want to know what you think too. Email me down at gbnews.uk, tweet using the handle at gbnews. Our poll running there too. The results and this clash coming up after the break.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh, my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Neil Oliver and our positive Professor Carol Sikora both on the way, but it's time now for The Clash. For years, trendy fashion brand Abercrombie & Fitch drew criticism for exclusively using shredded, topless male models to promote its slim-fit clothing. And in their drive to shake off that reputation and be more inclusive, they've used plus-size models in recent ad campaigns, such as this one. There you go. But that's caused uproar, with many slamming them as irresponsible for glamorising obesity, including our very own Leo Kearse, who tweeted, "Are you serious? Abercrombie & Fitch, this is your advert, and it's a girl so fat she's got an ass on her front. Are you just advertising how strong your buttons are?" It comes as another fat-shaming row has been hitting headlines, with comedian Aries Spears taking aim at pop superstar Lizzo.
I can't get past the fact that she looks like the emoji. She's got a very pretty face, but she keeps showing her body off. Like, come on, man. A woman that's built like a plate of mashed potatoes is in trouble. If you really gave a why wouldn't you go, "Black girl, we love you, we love your confidence, boo-boo, but this ain't it. This ain't it." That's the real love. Y'all will jump on me for making jokes, but y'all won't be real and go, "Sister, put the eclair down. This ain't it. It's treadmill time."
Now, someone who has always been vocal on this issue is rapper, podcaster and friend of our show, Zuby. He found himself at the centre of a Twitter storm after writing, "Fat shaming works on some people. Millions have lost weight and gotten healthier because they were teased and shamed, compelling them into action. For others, it can cause them to feel depressed and binge eat more. People are different. It's not one size fits all." So, with a series of high-profile obesity rows brewing, I want to know from you whether fat shaming should be encouraged to get the nation in shape. So email me, dan@gbnews.uk, tweet me at GBNews. While you're there, vote in our poll. But weighing in on this now, we have the man himself, Zuby, weight loss expert and founder of Fatnosis, Steve Miller, and plus-size model Eva Believer. So, Zuby, your tweet really divided opinion on this. Are you sure that shaming people is a way to get them to lose weight?
Hey, Dan. Well, if you listen to what you said and you read my tweet, I said that fat shaming works on some people. This is a fact. That's not actually an opinion. It works on certain personality types. And I also said that it doesn't work on everybody. So I don't really think that's my opinion. I think that that is simply a fact. Now, in terms of the term fat shaming, it's one of those things that's become a bit complicated. I think that what a big problem we're having right now in society, and it's insane considering the health situation that we've been in, not just for the past few years, but the past few decades. The thing I and many other people have a big problem with is the glorification or celebration of obesity. This is not something that's simply about aesthetics. This is a health issue. It costs our nation and many other nations many, many millions of pounds, billions of pounds, even more in the USA and in some other countries. And obesity is not something that should be glorified and celebrated. It's a health issue. It leads to many other health issues. And I think that is the fundamental problem.
So, Lizzo, would you use her as an example of that glorification of being overweight, Zuby?
Yes, I do think that that is an example. I think it's one thing saying that people should not hate themselves and people should have, people should have a level of confidence. But there's a line between having confidence and having a matter of self-pride and self-esteem, and outright glorification of something that is unhealthy. This is not coming from any point of hate or aggression. This is coming from a place of wanting people to improve themselves. It's coming from a place of actual love and compassion and truly caring about people, not merely their feelings, but their actual health. And obesity is not something that is healthy.
Eva Believer, you think that it's completely wrong to fat shame anyone. Why?
Well, first of all, hi to everyone. Nice to meet you, Zuby, and nice to see you again, Steve. So, first of all, I would like to say that any type of shaming is actually really bad for you, because I don't know anyone, personally me, that achieved any results or any positive changes in their lives just because they were shamed. I mean, I faced in my life, it was nothing related to body issues or fat shaming, but I had a professor while I was studying opera who admitted in the end that she was using the method of shaming, of putting someone down. So she thought that people like bamboos, they will go through, they will grow, and they will prove that, wow, it's wrong, I can do better. But you know, at the end, she lost all of her students because everybody had mental break and they lost their voices. So imagine with fat shaming, when it comes to your body, I wanted to tell you, I just remembered now, there is a very famous doctor who has a talk show, I think in America. My mom is obsessed with him because the show is also in Lithuania, on Lithuanian TV. And he said one time, one very correct thing: the hunger comes from your head, from your heart, and from your stomach. If all of us would eat to satisfy the hunger that comes from our stomach, we would never be fat.
Okay, good point. Good point. Well, I want to put that to Steve Miller, because, Steve, you are very harsh on folk who are overweight. Is that not a point that Eva Believer has, actually? A lot of the reasons for people eating is down to emotions. It's down to being unhappy. And so if you just tell them, oh, you're fat, actually, they feel more unhappy, Steve.
Well, I'm going to take issue with what you're saying now, because I don't think I'm harsh at all. I think I'm straight talking. I think I tell the truth.
Look, I like straight talkers. I like straight talkers, Steve.
And actually, and anyone that knows me will see I put an arm around my people a lot, and you will have seen that on my TV show. However, we have become a nation of fat-shaming squealers, and I'm fed up to the back teeth of it, because you only have to say, I like salad these days, and you're called a fat shamer. You know, cancer research, for putting out the warning about being too fat can trigger cancer. It's the second biggest trigger of cancers now. They were called fat shamers for doing that. So I think we've got to understand that we've gone a little bit too far over the boundary. And what we've got to do is actually get a bit more real. The University of East Anglia did some research on this and found that we are beginning to normalise fat. And as Zuby quite rightly says, breath of fresh air, I have to say, is absolutely right. We've got to get more honest with people. And for the people out there that call me a fat shamer, I have two words for you. The first one is fat, and the second one is off. Fat off.
Zuby, what is fat shaming then? Because how do you fat shame in a way that is actually going to make a difference for someone?
Yeah, I think maybe the term fat shaming itself has become mired in too much. I think it's interpreted too differently by different people. And I think that when people use the word shame, people are conflating it with some type of bullying or aggression or attacking. And that's not what I'm talking about. What we are discussing is that there are certain behaviors that human beings do. I think we'd all agree, if we're being honest, there are behaviors that human beings do that should be shamed, right? Not everything should be accepted, let alone nor tolerated by society. And we all know that it's not good for people to be using hard drugs. We know that it's not good to be binge drinking excessively. It's not good to smoke tons of cigarettes excessively. These are all bad behaviors, and people don't feel any type of way about shaming people for smoking, right? That's simply letting them know that what they're doing is not healthy. It's not conducive to their life. And that's something that you should tell people. You shouldn't shy away from telling a good friend or telling someone that it's unhealthy to smoke or unhealthy to do hard drugs.
Yeah, but they know that. They know that, and they make a decision to keep doing it for their lives. And as a libertarian, I might disagree with that decision, but I'm going to accept that they smoke as long as it has nothing to do with me. I mean, look, Steve Miller, you've got Eva Believer here, right? Now, she's made her career out of being a plus-size model. Maybe a few years ago, she wouldn't have had this career. Would you want to fat shame Eva? Would you say that Eva shouldn't be happy with her weight?
I don't know. Eva's lovely. I love Eva. I know I've got to know Eva through GBNews. But the one thing I would say with the catwalk, we've actually gone from the catwalk to the fat walk, haven't we? Because everything seems to be these days about plus size models and fat models on the front of magazines.
So you don't think Eva deserves to be on a catwalk?
Hang on, let me finish. Let me finish the point. And Zubi's right. It's not about hating people. It's still about loving people, but it's about saying we cannot continue to glorify it in the manner we are.
I know. No, Steve, I get that. I get that. But this is a debate, Steve.
To believe it's
Steve,
normal.
Let me come in. I understand the philosophical point you and Zubi are making. What I'm trying to understand, remember, I'm someone who battles with my weight. So what I'm actually trying to understand is the practical nature of this. How do you want to deal with people who are overweight? Do you want to say to Eva Believer, you should not be doing your job because you're too fat? Do you understand what I mean? Because we're saying fat shaming should exist in society. OK, how? Do you just go up to a random fat person on the street and say you need to lose weight? How does this work in practice, Steve? Because you've got Eva Believer here. She's a plus-size model. How do you deal with her?
I think it's about balance. And what we do with plus-size models, many of which I get on with extremely well, is we make it clear to them and we encourage them to put over the message that being this fat, and it is called fat, right, is not healthy. Because if we don't, we're going to nurture a society in the United Kingdom where it becomes the norm for everyone to sort of hang around and sing if you're happy. And
no, I understand you've been upfront about it. So I want to give the final word to Eva Believer. So Eva, Steve's saying, look, I like you, I get on with you, but I think you're fat and I don't think you should be on the catwalk or the fat walk, as he calls it. How do you respond, Eva?
Well, first of all, let's start from the fact that catwalk is not to glorify fat people. The catwalk is just the event for fashion to show what clothes plus-size people can buy. At this moment, maybe tomorrow they're going to lose weight, but today they need to dress somehow, isn't it? So I don't want to be glorifying Victoria's Secret that says that plus size now will be done for her brand and it's going to end up at size 18 UK, which, excuse me, it's not true because size plus only starts at 18. So just to tell you something, dear Steve, you know, I've been on the show before, so probably people who are watching it now, they know my story. I lost 7 stone sometimes in my life and I put everything back. But I must say, people who were born slim and maybe they are lazy to go to gym or whatever, eating unhealthy, this is one thing. But when you're born of 1 stone weight and you have had your past related to health problems and all that, I think being of my size and being super healthy and fit, because I go to gym 3 times a week, I swim in a pool every Sunday. Today I was exhausted. It's absolutely okay. I am size 22 UK, and you can say, oh, she's fat because this is plus size. But if you see me walking on the beach 17 miles in one day, you will be surprised. You won't walk with me because I'm really fit.
Okay. No, I understand. I understand, and this is a fascinating debate.
My skin is glowing. And let me tell you this.
Okay, final word, Eva.
I have a very close person who is size 10 and has high cholesterol, high sugar, terrible.
And I bet you love to see that. Eva Believer, plus-size model, thank you so much. Thank you too to rapper and podcaster Zubi. We'll speak soon, Zubi. And weight loss expert, the founder of Fatnosis, Steve Miller. So who do you agree with? Should fat shaming be encouraged to get the nation into shape? Well, from Jules on Twitter, some people have medical illnesses that make losing weight very difficult. These people have already felt horrible, struggling with illnesses and medication that could cause weight gain. Making fun of them is cruel. From Sean, it helps the person who is getting teased and shamed by not only encouraging them to lose weight, but also shutting the bullies up too. And from Tobias, we promote unhealthy body shapes in fear of being cancelled and chastised. It's pathetic. Your verdict is now in. This is interesting. Quite divided. 2/3 of you, 67%. Saying that fat shaming should be encouraged to get the nation in shape. 33% of you with Eva Believer there.
Love that. Now, coming up, after Rishi Sunak's pitiful and self-serving lockdown revelations, should those at the helm of our ruinous COVID response face criminal prosecution for their conduct during the pandemic? Our man in Sterling, Neil Oliver, delivers a critical briefing on that at 9:45. But next, as Novak Djokovic is barred from the US Open because of the USA's unvaxxed travel restrictions, our positive Professor Carol Sikora joins me to call out the discriminatory stupidity of Joe Biden's policy. He's live right after the break.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GBNews.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back. Neil Oliver is coming up next, but it's time now for our positive Professor Carol Sikora. And the US Open kicked off today without the biggest star in tennis, 3 times winner Novak Djokovic. Joe Biden's government proved it certainly wasn't following the fabled science when it refused to drop its discriminatory vaccine mandate for international travellers, leaving Novak preposterously banned from entering the country. The Serbians' fierce rivals, Rafa Nadal and Dani Medvedev, both expressed their disappointment at his absence, suggesting fans who paid top dollar to watch the event were being shortchanged. Now, Novak has to be praised for sticking by his guns and forfeiting the chance to become the most lauded tennis player ever. But many fans and medical experts remain outraged at the government's nonsensical stance to keep their ridiculous jab mandate enforced. Professor Carol Sikora was one of the thousands who slammed the decision, saying it's outrageous that Djokovic is banned from playing in New York because of his choice not to take the vaccine. They may be rules, but the rules are unscientific and wrong. Now, Carol, look, the US updated its domestic COVID advice earlier this month to treat the unvaccinated exactly the same as the vaccinated. And even 4 jabs, Joe Biden got the disease twice recently. So on what basis is the government still banning unvaccinated travellers to America, especially a civil rights hero like Novak Djokovic?
It is ridiculous, Dan. It just is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the problem, of course, is once you've got rules, you've got to apply to everybody. So you can't say Djokovic is someone special and therefore we've got to make exemptions just because he plays tennis. That would be wrong to do that. But when you look around the world, everywhere you go, it's different. And who's making the decisions? That's what I don't understand. I was in Italy this weekend, and there you have to wear masks on certain trains. Not all trains, but certain trains. This is just stupidity gone mad. There is scientific basis. It's the same for Novak. And for goodness sake, let him play. It's an important tournament. but you can't make exemptions. I tell you what, though, diplomats get exemptions. They don't get asked for anything. You have your diplomatic passport. I used to have one when I worked for the WHO. You get asked for nothing. And these guys get away with it. But if you're someone like Djokovic, high profile, you have to have it.
No, I completely agree. There shouldn't be exemptions, but Carol, the rule shouldn't be in place at all, should it? I mean, there's no scientific fact to back this up.
It is outrageous. It really is that different countries are making different rules. The WHO is so weak. It doesn't say, look, stop it, people. Let's have a standard rule for everybody about testing, about quarantine, about whether you can come into a country or not. This is just absolute stupidity. And it's going on too long. I mean, COVID is over. I mean, I can't get over that. COVID is no longer a big public health problem. But of course, a lot of people have made a lot of money out of it. The pharma industry, the vaccine makers, the people that make all the protective clothing. And it's very difficult to get us out of it. We've got to come out of it. Sure, people have died, and it's sad. But on the whole, we're out of it now, and we've got to get back to normal. And the sooner we can normalize it, including high-profile things like tennis tournaments, become normal, it's really important.
Yeah, and we certainly have to stop the discrimination against people who have made a perfectly acceptable choice not to have a medical procedure, because that's human rights, Carol. Last time I checked. Maybe Joe Biden needs to look into what human rights actually mean.
It's the same with mask wearing. It's the same about social distancing. You are your own boss. You can decide what you do. And it's up to you. We don't need announcements every 2 minutes on the trains telling us what we have to do. We need to just make our own minds up. If you want to wear a mask, by all means wear it. I don't mind. But please don't impose your wishes on other people.
Carol Sikora, as ever, you put it perfectly, Carol. And hopefully Djokovic is not going to be banned anywhere soon. One thing's for certain, he will be on the right side of history when it comes to civil rights. Carol Sikora, our positive professor, thank you so much. We'll speak next week. But coming up, as Labour's Shadow Cabinet Minister Lucy Powell shows off a divisive left-wing T-shirt, and police remove gender-critical feminist lesbians from a pride march. Is it now the left who are intolerant Puritans? We're going to debate that at 10, as well as take a first look at the newspaper front pages for tomorrow too. But up next, after revelations of edited meeting minutes, should those at the helm of our ruinous COVID response face criminal prosecution for their conduct during the pandemic? Our man in Stirling, Neil Oliver, delivers a critical briefing in The Outsider. He's up live straight after the break.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh, my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Tomorrow's newspaper front page is just around the corner. But first, Neil Oliver is tonight's outsider. Widespread fury has continued over Tory leadership hopeful Fishy Rishi Sunak's revelation that crucial minutes from Sage meetings during the pandemic were edited to remove dissenting views as he blew the whistle on the lockdown madness 2 years too late, in my opinion, in an extraordinary interview with The Spectator. That prompted top barrister and legal commentator Francis Hoare to write of the former Chancellor's revelations. This is absolutely shocking. If this is true, then those responsible, and it is reasonable to suppose that Whitty and Vallance were at least aware, should face a criminal investigation for misconduct in public office. Now, Neil Oliver, Sunak made clear he wasn't pointing the finger at individuals, but do you think there should be a criminal investigation into the lockdown cover-up?
Definitely. The country's been lied to over and over again, not just about COVID and the pandemic and the rest, but the same people who lied to us about all of that are lying to us still, and lying to us now about a whole other raft of things to do with energy prices and climate and all the rest. But if Rishi Sunak is correct, if he's telling the truth, if dissenting voices and comments were edited out of minutes, which were then passed to government and it shaped decisions that put us on the path to the ruinous lockdowns, the total damage of which is yet to be experienced, far less paid for. If that is what happened, then we were lied to. We were told lies. The government was lied to, and then we as people were lied to. We were tricked into lockdowns. The lockdowns were perpetuated long after so many sage advisors, and I don't mean the special advisor group, I mean wise people were saying that the lockdowns were ruinous, and the fact that they were maintained and sustained on the basis of lies means that, yes, there have to be criminal investigations. And if people are found to have been, lying while in public office, then jail time should be the consequence.
Neil, if only there were some sage advisors on Sage, and maybe we actually would not be in the mess we're in today. But Neil, what do you make of Rishi Sunak trying to present himself now as some sort of anti-lockdown hero, when he was the second most powerful person in government as these ruinous lockdowns destroyed millions of lives?
I cannot believe that he thinks, or that perhaps he's taking advice from a team, I don't know, that his team thinks that this is believable or credible in any way. Bev Turner monologued on the same subject. Other people have said similar things, but I would just reiterate that it's obvious to anyone that if he had been a person of principle, he would have walked out. He would have walked away from those meetings once he determined that his comments were being ignored and deleted, and that a false version of events was being passed to government. He would have hot-footed it to the nearest television studio, and there he would have said that his job was not as important as the truth. He didn't do any of those things. He kept his head down. He did what he was told. He's only acting now out of political expediency. And to be honest with you, Dan, it's the triumph of expediency, including political expediency, that's got us into the mess that we're in now. It's true of government, it's true of the institutions, it's true of the church. People aren't, and haven't been for a long time, acting out of heartfelt, strongly held principles and convictions. They just look at a situation, decide what's best for them, what will enable them or their political party or their organisation or their corporation best to survive and thrive. So they act out of political expediency, and that Rishi Sunak thinks that he's going to gain anybody's favour by saying, you know, I was drumming my fists on the table, but no one would listen to me. But in any event, I just kept my mouth shut and went along with it, while I knew, as the second most powerful person in government, that the country was about to be driven off of a cliff. It would have been better if he'd said nothing of the sort. He can only have made it even more clear what sort of person he actually is, which is to say a person of no principle, a person of no conviction, a person who is completely hollow and is motivated always and only by political expediency, which translates as what's best for Rishi today.
Well, indeed, Neil, I completely agree with that. I think the bloke is a globalist droid. And I think for me, this interview actually has posed so many more questions that we now need to demand more answers for. Because I don't know if you saw, Neil, he said, oh, the script was written when he was talking about the Fair campaign and what the country was going to be put through. Well, who was the script written by, Neil? Is he referring to the World Health Organization? Is he referring to the World Economic Forum? We need to know, because at the end of the day, Vallance and Whitty don't write the script. They advise the government. So who is writing the script?
Well, exactly, Dan. That was the stuff. That was another claim that a lot of us were making, an assertion that a lot of us were making, myself included, that it was too convenient that all of these people all across Europe, all around the world, were using the same language all the time, narrow windows of opportunity, build back better, and all the rest of it. And we said, many of us, that this is a script. These people are a choir, and they're all singing from the same hymn sheet. And that assertion by so many of us was shouted down as a conspiracy theory. But there we have it in Rishi Sunak's own words, that there was a script written. But the most fundamental problem here is it's plain to everyone, as I say, that we were being lied to. We were being lied to because the lockdown was being imposed not because it had anything to do with public health. It was never about public health. COVID presented an opportunity to bring forth plans which had been a long time being laid down. COVID lit the blue touch paper to bring forward a larger plan, which was about fear and control. Now, that is being exposed bit by bit, but more and more every day. We know that we were lied to. Now, if we do not see a reckoning, if people aren't held to account, if there isn't a criminal investigation and where appropriate, criminal prosecutions for what was done to us, then they will be emboldened. They're already emboldened because other governments all across the world were telling the same lies to their people for the same reasons. And if all of these people are allowed to get away with that in plain sight, if it's simply nodded through that, yes, we lied, yes, we did all these things because we wanted to apply fear and control, and now we're going to apply the same tactics so that we can get our way about energy, so that we can get our way about climate and all of the rest of it. We have to act now. We cannot let them away with what they did during the COVID pandemic, because if we do, we will only have ourselves to blame for watching repeat after repeat after repeat of the same tactics again and again and again.
Powerfully and perfectly put as ever. Neil Oliver, thank you so much.
Thanks, Dan.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Dan Wootton. Tonight, as the Sunday Times reports that some disgruntled Tory ministers are suffering from seller's remorse and already plotting to write no-confidence letters in Liz Truss, could Boris Johnson actually make a swift comeback? Well, furious Tory members are starting to take matters into their own hands to regain control of their party. One of them, Patrick Stoner, has founded a new grassroots action group called the Alliance of Conservative Voters, and he's demanding democracy returns to the parties and its members. He'll join me live on this at 10:20. As gangs of youth run riot all over lawless Britain. Should we bring back corporal punishment to restore old-school discipline into the nation's wayward children? I'll tackle that with my superstar panel in the Media Buzz tonight. I'm joined by Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, senior reporter for the newspaper Benjamin Butterworth, and former MEP, campaigner and political commentator Belinda de Lucy. Court documents have finally proven what we all suspected. Canada's travel ban for the unjabbed, like every other country's, was unscientific and a purely political policy. The British freedom fighters who exposed Justin Trudeau's tyranny for the world to see, Sean Rickard and Carl Harrison, join me alongside Canadian columnist Rupa Surabmanya. They're uncancelled at 10:40. As Labour's shadow cabinet member Lucy Powell dons a very childish and divisive T-shirt, and police remove these feminist lesbians from a pride march for their protest against trans extremism.
At the moment, your march, this group of people, is causing confrontation between different groups of people. Okay? For your own accord.
I want to make sure I understand that you are removing lesbians from like LGBT march.
Yes, that is.
Are the left now the intolerant Puritans in society? We'll have more on that in the Media Buzz coming right up. Plus, how has this innocent video from Hollywood star Drew Barrymore...
Whenever you can go out into the rain, do not miss the opportunity!
How has that caused this insane reaction from woke lefties?
To disrespect and dismiss the boundaries that Black creators have set. And now you're one of those people.
And the eco-terrorists at Just Stop Oil are back and putting lives at risk in the name of their unhinged green agenda.
Doing everything we can to get this road shut down, and we've been told that it's more important that oil continues to flow, even if a heavy goods vehicle driver dies.
Oh, good Lord, what is happening to our world? We're getting stuck into all of that madness throughout the Media Buzz. And as Meghan sensationally reveals that Prince Charles's relationship with Prince Harry is over and compares herself to Nelson Mandela, will her latest destructive and unhinged interview be enough to see her crown tonight's Union Jackass? Find out as I nominate the GBUJ winners of the first ones of the week at 10:50. We'll have tomorrow's newspaper front pages on the way throughout the hour too. But before all of that, the news headlines at 10 with Polly Middlehurst.
Dan, thank you. Good evening to you. Well, you may have heard NASA has postponed the launch of its new moon rocket after an issue with one of its engines. The uncrewed rocket is the world's most powerful to date and was due to propel a test capsule far from Earth into the moon's orbit. Engineers, though, say a temperature problem was the cause of the launch being called off today. Mission manager Michael Sarafin says the NASA team isn't ready to give up and hopes for a successful takeoff on Friday.
The combination of not being able to get the engine 3 chilled down and then the vent valve issue that they saw at the inner tank really caused us to pause today, and we felt like we needed a little more time. There was also a series of weather issues throughout the window. We would have been no-go for weather at the beginning of the window due to precipitation, and later on in the window we would have been no-go for lightning.
Politics, and it's the final week of campaigning in the Conservative leadership contest. And Liz Truss's team says she favours targeted support to ease the cost of living crisis. But Liz Truss says she's not ruling anything out, adding it wouldn't be right to announce her entire plan before she's seen the full Whitehall analysis. International news, and residents living near Europe's biggest nuclear facility in Ukraine are being given iodine tablets amid fears of a nuclear incident. The authorities handed out the medication to both parents and children living close to the Zaporizhzhia power station amid renewed intense fighting in that area. A team from the International Atomic Energy Agency have arrived in Ukraine to investigate a Russia-occupied facility, saying safety and security must be paramount. A UK Royal Navy official says Britain's biggest warship will require repairs, which may impact the ship's programme going forward. Rear Admiral Steve Morehouse says it's great to see the team at Carrier Enterprise come together so quickly to understand what's happened following a mechanical failure on the ship. HMS Prince of Wales left Portsmouth on Saturday, expecting to spend the next 3 months working with the US military in the Atlantic. But she's now returning to the Solent off Portsmouth, where divers will examine the damaged part thought to be a propeller shaft. Now, refuse collectors will continue to go on strike in Scotland. 2 unions have rejected the latest offer from the local authorities. The offer made to bin workers included a one-off payment of up to £2,000, but that was rejected by Unite and GMB. One other union is still in negotiations. Staff in Edinburgh and a number of other local administrations across Scotland have been staging industrial action over the last week or so in their disputes over pay. That's it. You're up to date on TV, online and on DAB+ radio. You're with GB News. Time for part 2 of Dan Wootton Tonight.
Tomorrow's news tonight now in our media buzz. Let's take a first look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages, now hot off the press. Last orders for pubs leads the Metro, as brewery bosses warn that thousands of pubs will shut forever unless governments step in to help with skyrocketing fuel bills. Bosses at 6 of the country's biggest pub chains say many are confronting a 300% increase on pre-pandemic running costs. And you know this is a story we're very passionate about here on this show, and we will be continuing to cover throughout the week. The Eye reports that Liz Truss has said she will not reveal full details of her cost of living plan until she is PM, as she has not had, quote, data and information from the Treasury. It's a wild British red alert, says the Daily Star. According to the paper, poisonous false widow spiders are invading our homes, while snakes that were dumped because they became too expensive to care for are now also on the loose. Goodness me, fangs can only get better, right? Now my superstar panel back with me, top Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, senior reporter for the Eye newspaper Benjamin Butterworth, and former MEP campaigner and political commentator Belinda de Lucy. Now, 2 moments that went viral at Pride celebrations over the weekend have once again proved that it's the left who are becoming increasingly intolerant in society. First in Manchester, Labour frontbencher Lucy Powell was accused of stirring up division after posing in a T-shirt that claimed she, quote, never kissed a Tory. The party's shadow culture secretary was told to grow up by critics after boasting online about pulling the stunt. Tory MP Diana Davison, who came out as bisexual last year, said it was juvenile. Far more shocking, though, was a group of lesbians in Cardiff who were removed from a Pride march because they were gender-critical feminists who dared to question basic biology. Watch as a police officer tells the group to leave the area or be forcibly removed by cops as trans extremists confront them with foul-mouthed abuse.
At the moment, your march, this group of people, is causing confrontation between different groups of people.
We're lesbians, it's gay pride.
Whatever you are at the moment
and lesbians
is causing confrontation.
I did not want I want to make sure I understand that you are removing lesbians from like LGBT march.
Yes, that is what's happening.
I mean, Belinda Lucy, so much going on there. But fundamentally to me, what all of this shows is actually it's the left in society now who have become intolerant. They're actually the new Puritans.
Well, I think the progressive left is more dangerous in this country than the far right. I think the far right quite rightly gets called out, gets ring-fenced, as far away from power as it can be. The progressive left is extremist ideology. It has infiltrated our public sector. We can see how much it's infected our police, that they're removing lesbians from a Pride event for just wanting same-sex relationships. And I think it's a real worry because the progressive left isn't just about denying reality and peddling lies. It is about, you know, you see for example, paedophiles being called minor attracted people now. You know, to sanitize paedophilia. You get drag queens reading story times to children. This is all progressive liberal left infiltrating our society, and I worry because it's too near power. And what happened at that Pride event in Cardiff was an absolute travesty for lesbians because they are being now demanded of by trans women to accept male-identifying trans as partners or they're bigots.
I mean, Carol Malone, it was really terrifying.
Oh, you know, I don't know whether I couldn't hear probably, but the coppers actually said to those lesbian women, we're going to remove you because you are going to get hurt. Well, why not remove the people who were going to hurt them, not them? You know, it was, as Belinda says, that was a Pride march. Those ladies had every right to be there. And if Pride isn't supporting gay people, what the hell is it for? But I just, we're told all the time in terms of the trans ideology that, we have to, we can't walk in their shoes and we can't question their lived experience. So we can't criticise them, we can't make any comment because we haven't lived their experience. So when a lesbian woman, of course they're women, when a lesbian says that she feels that her rights are being eroded, that her very status is being eroded by trans people, we have to listen to them because we're not walking in their shoes. And we're not listening. What you just said, and I just want to reiterate this, that there's now a faction of trans activists who are saying that lesbians who aren't attracted and wouldn't have sex with trans women are transphobes.
Oh, yeah.
So they're now being told who they have to have sex with.
That was behind the whole Alison Bailey
by the Trans Brigade, which I find outrageous.
And Benjamin Butterworth, that's your group in society. This is what you are doing to lesbian women. How do you explain yourself?
First of all, obviously, you can be attracted to whoever you wish to be attracted to. So that last...
Well, is it transphobic? Is it transphobic
of course it's
for a lesbian woman to say that they're not attracted to a trans woman?
Of course it's not. People can be attracted to whatever description of person.
Okay, good. I'm glad we agree on that because folk have lost their job for saying just that.
And, of course, 99% of the lesbian or bisexual women or whatever do not agree with those handful of women that were protesting. But the issue wasn't their...
How do you know that?
Why would you say that?
Because I've just spent the last 3 or 4 days at Manchester's Pride and support was overwhelming, but also the problem wasn't their views.
Well, probably because the lesbian women and the people who feel like I do about the gay community, we can no longer go to an event like the one that you've just been at because we will be attacked by trans extremists, the nasty, intolerant, puritanical left.
Well, I'll tell you who's nasty and intolerant. It's bigoted Belinda, who again just called trans people paedophiles. Why did you do
No, I didn't.
What?
I said progressive left.
You just said that it now includes that we're describing paedophiles as minor attracted people.
I said the progressive left did that. I didn't say trans people did that.
You're a liar, Belinda.
Oh, my gosh. I said the progressive left... Where they're going is a real threat to society because they are liberalising so much...
Why did you just bring paedophiles into
progressive...
about trans
I literally said progressive left.
No,
not trans.
You said you asked about trans people.
But we're talking about... No. But we're talking about the puritanical left.
Belinda keeps talking about paedophiles when asked about the rights of gay and trans
that is
people.
not true. And what
that's
you
the
do...
oldest bigoted trope
What you
in the
do
book.
is a total disservice to the trans community, many who just want to get on with their private life, but the extremists, the gender extremists have hijacked their community and they're scaring women and children, they're destroying boundaries that women have for their vulnerable spaces, they're demanding women let males into every single area of their lives if they claim that they're women. I'm sorry, but you are totally disconnected from women. You seem to have an issue with women. You call women bigots for highlighting concerns that we have.
I call you a bigot for calling trans and gay people paedophiles for the second time.
But you keep... not only did I not do that, but is that your only argument to make up lies?
Well, actually,
is that your argument?
Actually, as any gay person is aware, it is one of the oldest, nastiest slurs to bring paedophilia into our rights.
Benjamin, can
and that's what she...
No, I was talking about the progressive left.
But Belinda was speaking about this new...
What has paedophiles got to do with trans people?
Because it's this new
the progressive
move
left
for the progressive left, Benjamin, to describe paedophiles as... OK, but do you accept that describing paedophiles as minor attracted people is incredibly dangerous and we all need...
Yes.
We all need to say that that is a terrible thing.
Yes, and she makes it up because she's a bigot who wants to undermine LGBT people, and that's why she keeps mentioning paedophiles when talking about gay and trans people's rights.
People are not made up. It's a story that's in the news right now.
There is no movement among LGBT activists, among the progressive left or the progressive right to defend paedophiles, and it is pure bigotry.
What a shame you have to resort to abuse and insulting terms.
You just called gay people pedos.
I'm sorry, but I mean, you can watch it back. This is absolutely ridiculous.
You just
And do you
sat
know what?
there
I would
and for the
never call you
second week
names.
in a row- For the second week in a row,
I'm
you
so
mentioned
sad to see you
paedophiles in a
stoop
debate
so
about
low.
trans
I'm
people.
talking about the
It's
progressive left.
disgusting.
But Belinda did not call gay people paedophiles.
She didn't. She just sat there.
I just want to stick to the. I just
Yeah, please can we stick to the
I
argument?
just want to
Try
stick
and-
about the paedophiles. I just
try
want to
and
Why?
defend it.
What has my right to a trans person's rights got to do with paedophiles?
I had mentioned no connection, but I do say this, and this is in the news all the time, that the
Pathetic.
self-identifying, supporting left, progressive left, say that any man who says he's a woman gets absolutely deemed a woman in law, and women should
Why
accept
did you
men
say
as
that
women.
the progressive left and LGBT activists defend paedophiles?
I didn't say LGBT activists.
You
I said
did.
the progressive left are a threat to the fabric of our society, which I 100% stick with.
You apologise
because
for
I
bringing
have 4 children and I
paedophiles
see
into the
what they're
debate.
exposed to.
Do you know what's
and I see it
Carol, you've been watching this. Do you want to come
Do you
in,
know
Carol?
what's happened? I didn't hear her say that. But what I will say is, do you accept that lesbians feel that they are being marginalised and that they're being erased by the trans movement, by the aggressive trans movement?
There's a minority of lesbians that feel that way, and we see that in the protest. But the thing in that video is that they weren't told not to protest, they were told not to disrupt the Pride
They were
March.
told?
And that's the same as...
The guy said, "We're gonna remove you."
You always have Christian anti-gay activists at them, and they get a section to protest next to the march.
The copper
That's what
in
they
Wales,
were welcome to have.
The
They just weren't
copper
welcome to
in
disrupt
Wales
it.
said, the copper in
That's
Wales
fine,
said...
but that doesn't give you a right. If you're a lesbian or a gay person that opposes gay rights, and they exist,
Why?
you don't get to be in a gay rights march.
Let's just answer the question. The lesbians that were told they were being removed by those coppers there that are on
For their
screen right now,
safety?
they were being told they were removed from there for their safety. Why not remove the people who were endangering their safety?
Because 99% of LGBT people support trans rights.
99%.
You're just
the people
pulling
that
figures out the air.
copper just said were endangering their safety.
We all support trans rights.
You don't.
I absolutely
No,
do.
you don't.
I absolutely
You sit here
do.
and you bring out nasty stuff like that and debates like this to inflame
That's not that.
culture
That's
wars.
real.
You don't give a
No, I think he
damn
was
about
pointing at
trans
me.
people.
That's
Well,
real.
you're
What you
completely
just
wrong.
saw is real. It's not bringing it out and making it up. It happened.
You've
And the
got
vast
issues
majority-
with women,
The vast
Benjamin.
majority of oh God, you're vile. The vast majority of lesbians and bisexual
You've got to stop
women
this.
support trans people's rights, and those people were entitled to protest. They just weren't entitled to disrupt
Well, look,
everyone else.
what we're actually
So
trying
why,
to do.
Shame on you,
why,
Benjamin.
why,
That was very poor
at
debating.
London Pride this year were the lesbians who held the placards up that said lesbians don't have penises? Why were they abused at the march?
They're entitled, like the anti-gay
They are
Christian
entitled. They're
activists,
absolutely
to have
entitled.
something at the
But
side.
they
so you
were
don't get to
abused.
disrupt
They
They
were
are the
abused and
part
threatened.
of the quote-unquote community, which is being torn apart by
Well,
the
they're not part of
intolerant
community, actually,
left.
because if you don't support LGBT rights, then you don't have a right
But,
to be in an
but it's
LGBT
not about
rights
equal
march.
rights, it's about special rights that they want. This is where you're wrong. We all support trans rights. Who wouldn't? I support anyone
don't. You
vulnerable.
just started talking
But
about
do you want-
paedophiles.
And what's to do with the progressive left,
Stop
which I
this.
stand by?
She'll never apologise.
Well, I don't know what
he's
to
talking rubbish,
apologise
as usual.
for.
It'd be interesting
What
if we
does it
watch
have
that
to
back.
do with paedophiles?
I was literally talking about the threat of the progressive left, and
What's that got to
unfortunately...
do with paedophiles?
Well,
So,
Benjamin,
hang on.
Benjamin,
If-
unfortunately,
You said it. No one
you
provoked
don't
Listen, there's
seem to
evidence
want
everywhere.
to have
No
an
one else
intelligent
You don't want a
debate
conversation.
about this.
No one else mentioned
What happens if we-
You were talking
What
about
happens
the
if we
intolerant
watch-
left, and
what
I
happens
actually
if we
confirmed it was
watch this
progressive.
back?
And you're an intolerant
What happens
bigot
if
when you
what
say
happens?
things like that.
Hang on. What happens if we watch this back and she didn't say that?
She was asked about trans rights,
No,
and she said they now
talk
defend,
about the intolerant
in
left,
her
actually.
words, minor attracted adults, whatever it was.
Well, look,
that is disgusting,
Let's
and that
just
is
leave
bigotry.
it. Let's leave it. Benjamin, it's the only answer to everything. You're a bigot if you don't agree with me. It's
You
very
are a
boring
bigot,
and
Belinda.
very childish.
And unfortunately, this is what the intolerant left is now doing.
It's standing up for people's rights when they're attacked by media like this.
Now, the eco-terrorists at Just Stop Oil remain in the tunnels they burrowed near Gray's oil depot in Essex and are putting lives at risk in the name of their unhinged green agenda. Their pernicious protest had meant the vital road which oil tankers use to enter the depot and help keep our country running had been closed for almost a week. But today, police finally reopened the road and arrested several of the mob pitched above ground. However, the selfish green ghouls who dug tunnels so that the road became too unstable for the lorries to travel over remain underground, threatening our critical infrastructure as the country faces an energy catastrophe and cost of lockdown crisis. Instead of doing the right thing and dragging these eco-fascists out of the tunnels, our woke police force continue to treat them with kid gloves, negotiating with them, instead of treating them as the criminals they blatantly are. Look.
We are currently blocking tankers on St Clement's Way. We have got a tunnel just going underneath this railway bridge. We've been doing everything we can to get this road shut down, and we've been told that it's more important that oil continues to flow, even if a heavy goods vehicle driver dies.
As it is at the minute, they're not confirming that they will not reopen the road, and it is up to you to take care of your own safety. So if you feel unsafe, you should come out, okay? And I'll say what I said to the other guy. When I hear anything, I'll then come back to you and give you any updates.
I don't understand. We cannot allow these eco-terrorists to keep putting lives at risk. And we certainly shouldn't be negotiating with them when they are literally conducting criminal damage of our national infrastructure. The new Home Secretary must make Just Stop Oil a prescribed terrorist organisation. That is what they are, and the police need to get a bloody grip and put an end to this madness. Now, coming up, as lawless Britons run riot, should we consider a good old-fashioned smack to instil some discipline? We debate bringing back corporal punishment as the media buzz continues at 10:30. But next, brave Tory members who haven't forgotten the betrayal of Boris Johnson are demanding democracy returns to the party and its members. One of them leading the charge is Patrick Stoner from the Alliance of Conservative Voters. He joins me to reveal what's going on in the Tories straight after the break.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh, my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GBNews.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back. Now, Tory anger at the undemocratic ousting of Boris Johnson is threatening to boil over as the leadership race reaches its final stretch. According to the Sunday Times, MPs are suffering seller's remorse and even considering lodging letters of no confidence against PM frontrunner Liz Truss as soon as she gets into office, with the hope of Boris returning. On top of this, a petition started by former party treasurer Lord Cruddas demanding a veto on whether to accept Boris's resignation may be close to succeeding, with organisers reckoning they are just hundreds of votes away from the threshold needed to force a change in the party's constitution. The discontent is showing in the polls too, with an opinion survey revealing the party has slumped to second place behind Labour, with 63% of Tories preferring Boris over Liz, and is forcing Tory grassroots members to take matters into their own hands. My next guest, Patrick Stoner, has formed an action group called the Alliance of Conservative Voters, which is fighting to give ordinary members of the party a voice and a say, and whether a PM is strong-armed out. And I'm delighted to say Patrick Stoner joins me now. So there's a civil war going on behind the scenes.
There is.
In the Tory party.
There is a civil war.
And is it the members versus the MPs?
It's not even so much the MPs.
Okay, what is it? Explain.
It's the members versus the board and the 1922 and the way the party is generally run. The local associations have no powers, and this is part of what makes the Conservative Party the Conservative Party.
So you feel furious that Boris Johnson, who was an MP democratically elected in a landslide, a Prime Minister who delivered Brexit, was deposed in large part because of a campaign by the media, and it was a decision made by MPs without the members getting any say.
Without any say at all. I mean, we voted Boris in. He went in with a huge majority, one of the biggest in a long time. And then a few, and it is a few, of backbench MPs led by the 1922 committee decide that they want rid of him. And virtually committing suicide for the party in the possible general election.
Because you think there would have been more chance of Boris Johnson winning versus Keir Starmer than either Liz Truss or Rishi Sunak?
Oh, yeah.
And the point is, there actually aren't that many Tory members, so you're already making a massive impact behind the scenes in the party. What influence do you think you could end up wielding, and what is it you want? I mean, do you want more power to the members permanently? For example, would you prefer the MPs not to have the option of being able to depose a Prime Minister? Should that go down
I think
to a vote
it should go that far, because whether we like it or not, although in theory we vote for our local MP, the reality is that most of us actually vote for the leader of the party. And somebody like Boris got that majority. The local people voted for their MPs, but they didn't really care who they were. They wanted Boris in. They got Boris in. But then that whole decision being taken away was considered that's not fair. And the people started to leave the party in droves. And as you say, it's a small membership to begin with. How many is a bit of a mystery. I mean, even the party doesn't really seem to know. And
And what's interesting is Boris and Dominic Cummings obviously used that famous slogan, take back control, when it came to Brexit. Are you now trying to take back control of the Tory party?
Yes, we are. But not just us. I mean, we started this on Twitter very recently, and it went from strength to strength.
You already have thousands and thousands of followers.
Well, we personally only have about 3,500 followers. What we found is, though, that we were then... So a lot of those followers are other groups. There are also what we call the heavy hitters, the people like Sophie Corcoran, who apparently appeared on GBNews 1 year ago today for the first time. So, and we have Peter Cruddas, who is a great supporter of this move. We have people like the Conservative Post. Those are the people who make sufficient numbers between us that we can do something.
Have you tried to reach out to Boris Johnson directly?
Yes.
Do you believe that he supports your campaign?
I think he does. I think he has to, because I think he has the integrity that if he didn't support it to a large extent, he would actually have sent the message back. He is talking to people that we're talking to on a one-to-one basis, and he would have said, look, I'm not really interested, so we live in hope.
But the point is, Tory members are not just going to sit back and allow democracy in your party to be railroaded.
No, absolutely not.
Will Liz Truss get your support as Prime Minister?
Liz Truss would. We would have to, because if for any reason Boris isn't coming back, then she is our next best hope.
Yeah. Well, do you know what she needs to do? The moment that she is announced in 7 days' time, I think it's important that she meets an organisation like yours.
I think so.
And makes some immediate pledges to ensure that democracy in the party is delivered to the members. Because here's the point. If the 1922 had their way, if the MPs had their way, we would have a Rishi Sunak as Prime Minister in place right now.
Yes.
And that's not what the Conservative Party members want. So it's actually in Liz Truss's interest as Prime Minister to try and return democracy to the party.
It is.
And I think you've got a very strong movement, actually. We're going to keep in touch. We're going to keep following what you're doing, because I think there has to be change in the party.
I think so.
Because the party is incredibly out of touch with the people.
It is totally out of touch.
To represent.
Yes.
Patrick Stoner, really fascinating discussion. Of course, the founder of the Alliance of Conservative Voters. Now, coming up in Uncancelled, the British freedom fighters who exposed Justin Trudeau's tyranny for the world to see, Sean Rickard and Carl Harrison, join me alongside Canadian columnist Rupert Subramania. That's at 10:40 to unveil how they took on Canada's COVID state and the authoritarian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. But next in the Media Buzz, as lawless Britain runs riot, should we consider bringing back the cane? We'll debate corporal punishment and whether it's the way to get tough on the snowflake generation. That's in just 2 minutes.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh, my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Let's return to tomorrow's news tonight now on our Media Buzz. Lots more front pages then. The Daily Express carries comments from leading economist Patrick Minford, very good man. He was on the show last month to say that Liz Truss's tax plan is the only way to rescue the economy. Hear, hear. The Daily Telegraph leads with reports that statins do not cause common aches and pains, and research shows people complaining about symptoms are simply getting older. Meanwhile, Albanian cops to perform criminal checks on migrants at Dover. The Sun leads with Meghan's latest claim. We kicked off the show with this, didn't we? From that despicable tell-all chat and the cut that Prince Harry apparently told her that he, quote, lost his father during the Megxit split. It comes after it emerged that the Duke and Duchess of Woke won't be visiting Charles, the Queen or William and Kate during their next visit. Aren't they delightful people? Not. The Daily Mail also focuses on Meghan Markle's latest absurd victim-laden interview, where she again unleashes on the royal family and fires off another load of lies. The paper's royal editor, Rebecca English, calls it bizarre, unintentionally hilarious, with undertones of cool menace. The Independent leads with the story that mounting court chaos has seen criminals go free as record-breaking backlogs grow, with some cases being pushed until 2024. The Times leads with the news that PM hopeful Liz Truss will approve a series of oil and gas drilling licences in the North Sea in one of her first acts as part of a long-term plan to secure Britain's energy security. And that's great news, given my digest earlier.
My superstar panel return now. Top Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, star reporter at the newspaper Benjamin Butterworth, and former Brexit Party MEP Belinda de Lucy. Now, a school district in the US state of Missouri has caused an international debate by reinstating corporal punishment for misbehaving students after parents in the area called for smacking to be brought back. The new policy will require parents to opt their children into being disciplined physically and will only be used as a last resort. Students will only be smacked with a wooden paddle if there is a witness present that is not another student, and the smack cannot cause any bodily injury or harm. Now, corporal punishment in all UK state schools, that was banned in 1986, in all other schools in 1998. But though controversial, some are now wondering aloud whether it should be brought back here. Former police officer and former UKIP leader Henry Bolton told us if we're to be serious as a society about reducing antisocial behaviour, abuse on the streets and such things as criminal damage, then laying down lines of acceptable behaviour and improving discipline, including corporal punishment in school, has to play a part. Liberal attitudes have eroded social responsibilities and discipline, and this feeds in directly to the lack of respect and behavioural problems we see on our streets, from mindless vandalism to knife carrying. Carol Malone, you're in favour of the return of corporal punishment?
I'm not in favour of bashing kids or abusing kids or hurting kids. However, I am in favour of punishment. And by that I mean schools today, kids today, there are no consequences to their bad behaviour. It's why now the abuse of teachers, I looked at the stats today, 1 in 4 teachers are physically abused every week. 77% of teachers say they've been kicked or shoved or pushed. 9 out of 10 staff are dealing with challenging behaviour. Now, this is because there are no consequences to unruly, to badly behaved kids. And what happens is, these days, if a teacher even looks the wrong way, looks sternly at a kid, the parent, I blame a lot of parents come up to the school, they tell the teachers off. I think what we have to do here, corporal punishment, it will never be reintroduced back here, but I think what we have to do now is empower teachers, and we have to say to parents, let the teachers deal with it in the best way.
But if you could, you would bring it back?
No, because let me tell you why I wouldn't. Because when I was punished as a kid, it hurt. I mean, it really hurt. And don't get me wrong, it stopped me from being bad. I used to get a wooden board duster across my knuckles, or I got the cane, which I think these days would never be tolerated.
But you saw in Missouri there's going to be controlled circumstances.
Yes, that's different. That is different, yes. But what I think is we have to introduce the concept of punishment back into schools. I think it's really important, where kids understand if they behave badly, if they abuse a teacher. You know, you can't even suspend a kid now. No. You can't speak harshly to a child now. You can't say to a kid now, go and stand in a corner, because the teacher's career
would be against their human rights.
And the teacher would be fired in favour of the parent that was complaining.
Benjamin Butterworth, we've got to bring back some discipline into schools, don't we? Carol's right.
I mean, I think the idea that using violence will deter kids and young people from turning to violence is quite obviously flawed. You know, I think it would be a very dubious situation to have a state and institutions of the state able to beat children. I think that's an entirely inappropriate thing to do.
But that's an inflammatory word, beat. That no one's suggesting that.
But I'm afraid that I think that, you know, slapping a child with a wooden paddle, I think was the suggestion in this example.
Spanking, they call it in the US.
I was trying to avoid the word, but you know, I think, as far as I'm concerned, that is beating. And actually, all that shows is that it tells a child that we think we can change your behaviour by using a level of aggression and physical violence. And I think that sets a completely wrong tone. If you look at London, for example, London schools now get the highest grades of any region in the country. In the last 20 years, most of them have seen a dramatic turnaround, and that wasn't done by beating children in some of these really tough, rough inner-city schools.
It
was done by having very strict head teachers.
But is it OK for the teachers to get beaten? Because they are being beaten. Now, the compensation that councils... now the compensation that all councils have to pay is astronomical. It's in the hundreds of thousands that they're having to pay to teachers who get bashed. One teacher in London got 850 grand compo because he got kicked in the head. He has tinnitus now. He can never work as a teacher again because he's suffering from depression.
But that's a crime, and that crime should be enforced. And
but that's happening everywhere.
Those kids should go to young offenders.
Belinda, as a parent, would you have an issue with corporal punishment? Have you ever
smacked your kids?
Well, I run a very tight ship at home, Dan. I had 4 kids under 5, and my mum always said you've got to get the discipline in before they hit 5. And I do think discipline begins at home. I think it's up to the parents to discipline their children and not outsource it to school.
But does that include a little smack?
Yeah, a little clip around the ear. Well, only if it was a life and death. But that's the way I was brought up. And my kids are really well behaved and good pupils and very respectful to teachers in school because of it. And I think, unfortunately, there is a feeling that in some households, parents outsource discipline to schools and expect teachers to do it for them. I would never, by the way, outsource any type of physical punishment to teachers in schools against a child, because you never know what kind of mood the teacher's in. You never know whether the child's going to, cry
So
more
it should
abuse.
be parents who
It's
are instilling the
100%
discipline.
parents. And I mean, my dad was beaten so badly at school, he had to have stitches that you can still see in his back at the age of 75 years old. He was in hospital for days. So I just no punishment. Do you know what they should do?
Nuns
Is take
were
the
vicious
phones.
to my dad.
Take the iPhones away from the children if they misbehave. That's worse than beating for them.
Final word, Benjamin.
Well, I was going to say, I actually think it should go... I think Belinda's completely right. It's the responsibility of the parents. But I do think it should be illegal in England, as it is in Wales, for a parent to slap their child. Because violence against a child is not the answer to behavioural issues.
You'd be locked up,
It is
Belinda.
sometimes. I would be anyway, Dan.
Now, you would have thought this was a sweet clip of Hollywood star Drew Barrymore celebrating the rain after an extended period of dry weather.
Whenever you can go out into the rain, do not miss the opportunity!
Now, we all know the feeling after the relentless heatwave we've been having, right? But believe it or not, because it's 2022, for that, Drew Barrymore has been accused of racism. That baffling accusation launched by a furious TikTok user who said the video resembles a frolicking trend started by black TikTokers earlier this year, where black men run around happily in nature.
And I both know that you are capable of enjoying the rain and frolicking freely without filming it and then posting it to TikTok. Now, you've just co-signed, okay? You've just co-signed at least 3 million, 8.5 by 11 front and back, people who just go out of their way to disrespect and dismiss the boundaries that black creators have set. And now you're one of those people. So, I guess my question would be, why? Why is it so important to all of you to treat us like we don't matter?
I mean, I'm speechless.
I mean, that is beyond. You know the thing. So what? Are only people of colour in America entitled to frolic in nature? Is that what she's actually?
Drew Barrymore's a racist for having a rain dance.
I mean, that's just outrageous.
Benjamin, surely even you must admit that's one step too far. That's across the line.
Oh, come on.
I don't think rain is racist, no.
Thank goodness.
She said nothing that was vaguely racist.
Carol Malone, Belinda Lucy, do stand by. Coming up, my superstar panel will return to nominate for tonight's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. But first, the British freedom fighters who exposed Justin Trudeau's tyranny for the world to see. Sean Rickard and Carl Harrison join me alongside Canadian columnist Rupa Subramanya straight after the break to reveal how they took on Trudeau. First, though, quick look at what's coming up in tomorrow's show.
Coming up on Dan Wootton tonight, will our politicians have blood on their hands if they fail to stop the violent criminals taking over lawless Britain? BBC TV star Shabs Ahmed made headlines for calling out failed London Mayor Sadiq Khan's warped priorities, and he joins me live for a no-holds-barred interview. Plus, strap in for a night of unfiltered opinion as Nigel Farage and superstar US journalist Megyn Kelly tackles the issues that matter to you. And I'll break down the day's biggest headlines with my superstar panel: former editor, current columnist at the Daily Star, Dawn Neeson, conservative commentator, the Reverend Calvin Robertson, and author and journalist Rebecca Reed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursday, from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News.
But it's time now for Uncancelled.
And this is where the world's top commentators speak out on controversial issues without the fear of the cancel culture sweeping the rest of the media. Now, the great backtrack continues gathering steam as governments, lockdown enthusiasts and vaccine pushers sneakily try to save face by distancing themselves from the COVID tyranny of the past 2 years. However, there are too many decent people in this world to simply allow these gaslighters and cretins to slip off into obscurity. So 2 Brits living in Canada, Carl Harrison and Sean Rickard, are currently taking COVID authoritarian Justin Trudeau to court over his ghastly vaccine mandate that banned unjabbed citizens from public transport and even leaving the country. Like thousands of others, the pair were unable to fly back to Britain to visit ailing parents because of Trudeau's discriminatory rules. Sean raised £80,000 online to launch a legal action against Trudeau's out-of-control government before Carl teamed up to bring a $120,000 freedom-fighting lawsuit. Sean and Carl found not one person in Trudeau's 20-strong COVID recovery group panel that made the communist-style rules had any formal education in epidemiology, medicine or public health. Next month, a judge will decide whether to pursue the case, but regardless of their decision, Trudeau's political games with Canadian lives have been well and truly exposed. And I'm delighted to be joined now by the liberty-loving Brits themselves, Sean Rickard and Carl Harrison, plus star columnist for Canada's National Post newspaper, Rupa Subramanya. Now, Rupa, you broke this story of British heroism to the world. How significant is this action?
Well, thanks, Dan, for having me on the show. I broke the story for Barry Wise's Common Sense on August 2nd.
She's amazing.
And she is amazing. And the Trudeau government always claimed that COVID-19 policies were based on the science and the evidence. But thanks to the civil suit brought by Carl and Sean, we've seen the inside of one of their key mandates. This is the vaccine mandate for travel, which proved to be destructive and prevented millions of Canadians from traveling within the country or to go overseas to visit sick relatives. And so I went over hundreds of pages of testimony and cross-examination, and it becomes crystal clear that the mandates were going to happen regardless, and the bureaucrats had to scramble to find some kind of a scientific rationale for which they weren't able to do even just a few days before the mandates kicked in. I want to tell your listeners and your viewers that why did Trudeau do this? That Trudeau was in a minority in the House of Commons, having lost his big majority because of a series of corruption and cronyism scams back in 2019. He was desperate to regain it, and vaccine mandates proved to be the perfect wedge issue. And why for travel? Well, one crucial reason is that it's the only sector apart from from federal workplaces which comes under the federal government's powers. In other words, this was the only place where Trudeau could flex his muscles and impose a vaccine mandates, and that's what he did. And the rest was really trying to retroactively provide some kind of a rationale which wasn't there. And that is what happened. And to sum it up.
No, it was a fascinating revelation. Now, look, Sean and Carl, what heroes you are. Sean, you were actually strangers, weren't you, before this happened? But you're now both flying the flag for Britain abroad. Why were you prepared to put yourself on the line in order to do this?
Because nobody else was. Nobody else was doing anything. The politicians laid silent. And what was happening was very egregious and tyrannical in my mind. And the fact that none of the politicians were standing up to it and pushing back, it worried us. And the fact that we weren't able to leave our own country, literally by law, we could not leave Canada under this mandate, which is, to me, it resembles something like North Korea or Cuba. Right, it's not what you would expect in a democratic country like Canada. So I just felt compelled and decided to start reaching out to some people, and was eventually put in touch with our lawyer Sam. We had a quick conversation and got the ball rolling very quickly, literally that same day, and got a fundraiser going. And the rest is history. We started running it through social media. That's where I met Carl, through Twitter. We had a few conversations back and forth, and eventually decided to have a Zoom meeting with Sam, and we joined forces, and we've been working together ever since. And thanks to Rupert and her hard work, what we've uncovered during this process is quite shocking. And
well, it is. It's hugely shocking. And Carl Harrison, I mean, yes, obviously it's ironic, isn't it, that it took two Brits to do this. But I guess your hope, Carl, is that now the truth of the decision-making has been exposed for all to see. They shouldn't be able to do this again, because, of course, I know that the mandates have been dropped, but they say it's only temporary and they could come back at any time.
Yeah, I mean, the mandates are suspended, not dropped, and that's certainly part of our case. We've got to challenge that now to the government, of course, are trying to make the decision or make their decision, make the court case moot, as it's called over here, which means that in their language there's nothing to be decided, which we don't agree with. I think, you know, I mean, I'm a Canadian citizen and a British citizen. I've been here for some time, since 2009, and there are some differences between what you're seeing there and what we've seen here. And that's a cultural issue as well as a political one, but certainly everything's been politicized. There are differences between what you've seen in the UK. Certainly in England, you didn't see the divisive mandates implemented. I know they toyed with it there, but they didn't bring them in, whereas in Canada, right across the board, every province and the federal government brought these kind of proof of vaccine and vaccine mandates in, which were highly discriminatory and have been very, very divisive indeed in Canada, which is a great shame. Rupert's done a fantastic job because, unlike, again, like the UK media, where you've got different views and different opinions, and whilst you might think some of that's been suppressed and restrained, compared to here, it hasn't. The mainstream media here hasn't covered any of the issues at all and still refuses to do so, which is very sad. But Rupert's done a great job of bringing it to public attention, and it's good that we're getting some time with you. But certainly, politicised it has been. You've seen that, let's say, did in the UK, Scotland bringing in proof of vaccine, Wales doing the same, but England not doing that. So there is some, no, indeed. Obviously the science has to be the same, so I don't see why the political colours should matter. But in Canada, we've seen it very intensively, and as Sean has said, we've prevented, you know, millions of Canadians, 6 or 7 million Canadians, from just engaging in normal life and doing normal things.
It is absolutely sick what happened. We can never let it happen again, and that's why we have to keep on this with a laser focus. Liberty-loving Brits, Sean Rickard and Carl Harrison, and star columnist for Canada's National Post newspaper, Rupert Subramania. Thank you all so much. But it's time now to reveal today's greatest Britain and Union jackass. My superstar panel return. Carol Malone, who is your greatest Britain nominee?
Mine is Gibraltar, which is now officially a city. It was given city status by the Queen in 1842, but somehow it was omitted from the official list. No one called it a city. But on the Platinum Jubilee, 39 places were invited to apply for citydom, or whatever you call it. And Gibraltar has got it. It's fantastic. So hopefully it doesn't give them any extra benefits, but it'll make the residents happy. It's good.
Benjamin Butterworth, your greatest Britain nominee.
Well, mine is the dancing former Secretary of State, Michael Gove, who follows in the brilliant footsteps of Sanna Marin, the Prime Minister of Finland, and Hillary Clinton when Secretary of State, for enjoying a good dance and also being a politician. And you know, there's a lot of controversy about dancing politicians recently. I think good for them if they can relax and unwind from their work.
And Belinda de Lucy, your greatest Britain nominee.
My greatest Britain this week is Jacob Rees-Mogg for publishing another plan to create a lean, mean civil service machine, selling off up to £2 billion worth of government property that is being unused because jobs are being moved out to the country. Good for you, Jacob.
Do you know what? I'm going to go with Jacob Rees-Mogg for greatest Britain on this because, as you all know, one of my real passion projects is banning this work-from-home madness, which is damning our economy in so many ways. Union jackass time now. Carol Malone, who's your nominee?
Hey, Meghan. Only for using her long-awaited podcast to bleat a bit more about how terrible life as a royal was. But for this interview you talked about earlier in the Cop magazine, where she talked about, when she was here in 2019, she went to the Lion King premiere, and she said that a cast member said that when she married Harry, everyone rejoiced in the streets the way they did when Mandela was freed. Now, I'm just looking at Twitter tonight. She's trending on Twitter. People in South Africa are really hacked up with her.
Where was the dancing, Carol? Where was the dancing? I'd love to see it.
She also said that the bravest thing she ever did was go to South Africa. Well, people in South Africa are really cross about that as well. Again, she's upset
Honestly,
everyone.
this was one of the most deranged interviews I've ever read. It shows she is so far down that rabbit hole. She's dragged Prince Harry with her. My goodness, I actually think Prince Charles and Prince William need to fly over to Montecito, stage an intervention, save Prince Harry from that fantasist. Benjamin Butterworth, you want a mini?
Well, I must confess, I wanted to do Meghan Markle as well, based on that.
Oh, I love it!
I've gone with J.K. Rowling, who's...
Why?
Who's
She's a hero on this show, Benjamin.
Absolutely, we love her.
I regret to say she's written another book, and...
oh, yeah, because she's not good at that, is she?
And in this one, she talks about a celebrity harangued by self-righteous activists. Well, woe be her, the billionaire author.
Well, it's true, though.
And Benedict Lucy, your nominee.
Oh, mine has to be the Labour frontbencher, Lucy Powell, for wearing that T-shirt, never kissed a Tory. Just more divisive nonsense from Labour Party. It's childish, but that's the way they win people over these days.
We didn't get a chance to talk about that because of the epic fight between my superstar panel tonight. It was fight night. Meghan Markle is Union Jack. I'm back again tomorrow from 9 p.m. Good night.
Looking ahead to tomorrow's weather, and the UK is looking like a largely dry and bright day with plenty of sunny spells. Let's take a look at the details. Northern Scotland will start on a rather cloudy note with perhaps an isolated shower. A few glimmers of sunshine will develop as the morning progresses. Temperatures will be around 11 Celsius. A dry and largely bright start across Northern Ireland with any mist or fog patches quickly clearing. Sunny spells and light winds for all. Plenty of sunshine to greet us tomorrow morning across much of northern England, some patchy cloud and perhaps the odd shower in the east. A dry and sunny morning for the Liverpool Bay area and also North Wales with a light northeasterly breeze. Any mist or fog patches will soon clear from any